The body was found at dawn. Wrapped in burlap and sunk under 3 feet of swamp water, it was pure luck that the fisherman snagged his net on the boy's leg. At first, he thought it was an alligator. Then he saw the sneaker. Deputy Sloan was first on the scene. Young, polite, and too new to understand what he had just stepped into. The moment he radioed for backup, his voice trembled. Sheriff Jacobs, old and tired, sighed when he heard the call. "God damn it," he muttered. Not again. 10 miles away, Raymond Burke woke up on the floor of his trailer, shirtless, sweating, and halfway through a bottle of bourbon. His service revolver lay on the table next to old case files and unpaid bills. The call came at 6:12 a.m. He stared at the phone vibrating on the dirty countertop. He knew the number. He let it ring. It rang again. On the 4th try, he picked up. "This is Burke." "Ray, it's Jacobs. We found a body in Shallow Creek. Kid. 14, maybe 15. You want back in?" Ray rubbed his face. His mouth tasted like metal and regret. "Same mo?" he asked. Wrapped. Waited. Face gone. Ray didn't answer for a long time. Then he said, "I'll be there in an hour." Shallow Creek wasn't on any maps anymore. The road in was half swallowed by the swamp, vines choking the wooden signs, trees leaning in like they were listening. Locals called it dead land. No gas stations, no churches, just one boarded-up bar and a cemetery with more names than the town ever had residents. Ray parked his truck beside the sheriff's cruiser. Sloan looked up, startled. "You're Detective Burke?" "I was. Just Ray now." The body had already been taken. But the scene remained, blood on the water's surface, footprints in the mud, a cigarette butt in a jar of motor oil. Ray crouched. "Where's the kid from?" "Patterson. Name's Miguel LaRue. His uncle reported him missing last week." Ray looked up at the trees. Spanish moss hung like nooses. Something about this didn't feel like the old killings. "Jacobs," Ray called. "You said the face was gone?" "Ripped clean off. Same way as the others." Ray lit a cigarette, hand trembling slightly. "How long's it been since number 6? Jacobs looked down. 4 years. Ray exhaled smoke through his nose. "Then why now?" No one answered. 30 miles south, in a locked garage with peeling paint and broken windows, someone cleaned a large, bloody knife. There was music playing. A children's lullaby, softly warped and echoing through the room. And above the knife rack, 6 Polaroids were taped to the wall. Each one had a name. A date. And now, there was space for a 7th. Ray hadn't been in the sheriff's office in over 3 years. The walls looked the same, yellowed paint, water stains, and that lingering smell of mold and cheap coffee. But the air was different. Colder. More suspicious. Everyone stopped talking when he walked in. Jacobs gestured him into the back office. They closed the door. "You sure you want to be part of this again?" the sheriff asked. Ray dropped into the chair, leaned back, and stared at the ceiling fan spinning too slow. "You called me, didn't you?" Jacobs nodded, grumbling. "Truth is, I don't have anyone else who knows this case like you do." Ray smirked. "Because I was obsessed with it." Jacobs didn't argue. The first 6 victims had all been men. Drug dealers. Convicts. Ex-cons who lived on the fringes. Bodies found the same way, wrapped in burlap, weighted, and dumped in the swamp. Faces mutilated, sometimes removed entirely. The press called the killer the Butcher of Shallow Creek. Ray had gotten too close. Lost sleep. Lost friends. Lost his badge after breaking a suspect's jaw with a flashlight. No charges were ever filed against the man. No body ever recovered that time. Now victim 7 was a kid. That changed everything. Back in the evidence room, Sloan laid out the items found near Miguel's body. A rusted tin lunchbox with initials carved on it. A fishing hook jammed into the cloth wrapping. And a photograph, half-burned, showing a group of boys at a campsite. Ray picked up the photo. There was Miguel, barely 10 years old, smiling with a group of older boys. In the background, pine trees, a fire pit, and a red and white cooler with the logo, Camp Wren Hollow. "You recognize this place?" Sloan asked. Ray's face darkened. "Yeah," he muttered. "I do." Camp Wren Hollow had closed 8 years ago after a string of abuse allegations. No arrests. No convictions. The case was sealed, buried beneath paperwork and silence. Ray remembered trying to open it. Hitting wall after wall. Now it was open again, with a dead boy as the price. He flipped the photo over. One word scribbled in red ink. Liars. Back in his truck, Ray pulled out the old case folder from under the seat. Yellowed. Worn. Inside were reports, sketches, even a map of the bayou where the original bodies were found. And tucked inside, a single Polaroid. A man. Smiling. Face half hidden in shadow. Written in marker across the bottom. "Do you remember me?" Ray hadn't shown that photo to anyone. He'd kept it for himself. Camp Wren Hollow looked like a ghost town. Ray and Sloan pulled up the gravel road just past noon. What once was a summer camp was now a graveyard of memory, collapsed cabins, graffiti-covered bunkhouses, a cracked basketball court with weeds growing through the concrete. Sloan stepped out of the cruiser, eyes scanning the empty structures. "This place give anyone else the creeps?" Ray didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the mess hall. "I was here once," he said finally. "Summer of '88. I was 13. My father sent me." Sloan turned, surprised. "You went to this camp?" Ray nodded slowly. "For 1 week. Then I ran away." The mess hall door creaked open with a groan. Inside, dust danced in shafts of light. The walls were covered with peeling posters, teamwork. Respect nature. You're a Wren, you're a winner. The kitchen stank of rot. Pans still hung from hooks. Something small scurried behind a stack of trays. Ray stepped to the far wall. Scratched into the wood, barely visible beneath a layer of grime, was a name. Eli. He touched it. "I knew him," Ray muttered. "He disappeared the same summer I was here. They said he ran off. But I saw," he stopped. Sloan waited. "I saw his shoes. Sticking out from under the counselor's cabin." They found the counselor's cabin rotting in the woods behind the old rifle range. The door was gone. Inside, nothing but animal droppings and a moldy mattress. Ray crouched by the floorboards, ran his hand along the wood. One loose panel. He pried it up with a pocket knife. Beneath it, a hollow space. Dust. Bones. And a bracelet. Plastic. Child-sized. With faded letters spelling, Miguel. They called it in. Within the hour, the crime scene unit arrived. Jacobs came too. He looked around, face as pale as the moss-covered ground. "We had no idea," he said. "Nobody ever searched out here." Ray lit a cigarette. Because they didn't want to find anything. That night, Ray sat in his trailer, staring at the wall. He pulled out the Polaroid again, the one with the shadowed man. His hand hovered over it. Then he flipped it. A date. August 9th, 1988. That same week. Ray's fingers tightened. It wasn't just about the killings. It was about what they'd covered up. And who they were protecting. The man in the Polaroid had a name, Harlan Price. He'd been a counselor at Camp Wren Hollow in 1988. After the camp closed, he vanished. No job history. No tax records. No death certificate. Just gone. Ray remembered him well. Tall. Blonde. Too charming. The kind of man who could make a kid trust him in 5 minutes and ruin him in 10. Ray had seen him once dragging a crying boy behind the mess hall. When Ray told another counselor, they laughed and called it tough love. That boy's name was Eli. Back at the sheriff's office, Ray dropped the Polaroid on the table in front of Jacobs. "I want him found." Jacobs stared at the photo. Then at Ray. "Jesus Christ," he muttered. "That son of a bitch. You remember him too?" Ray asked. Jacobs nodded slowly. "He applied to work here. In '91. Didn't get the job. Said weird things in the interview. Talked about corrupted innocence and purifying the land. Gave me the chills." Ray tapped the photo. "I think he's the butcher. Or he's covering for him. Either way, he's alive." They ran the name through every database. DMV, Social Security, FBI. Nothing. Then Sloan came in, holding a file. "Check this," he said, eyes wide. "It's from a private security firm in Texas. Guy named Henry Prose, but the photo's almost identical." He dropped the printout. It was him. Same face. A little older. Different name. Fake identity. The address led them to a rural town outside Beaumont. A trailer park surrounded by pine trees and silence. At lot number 17, a rust-colored trailer with blinds drawn and a dead dog chained outside. Ray knocked. No answer. He knocked again. Then kicked the door in. The smell hit first, bleach, metal, and something rotting. Inside was dark. Quiet. On the walls, newspaper clippings. Crime scenes. Photos of victims, including Miguel, Eli, and all 6 prior. And above them, written in black ink. They were already broken. In the back room, they found a mattress soaked in blood. And under the bed, a locked metal box. Ray pried it open. Inside, a worn Bible with pages missing. A hunting knife. 7 Polaroids. 1 for each victim. And the 8th, blank. Waiting. They found Harlan Price 2 days later. He was walking along a highway near Jasper, Texas. Dirty clothes. Blank eyes. Carrying a grocery bag with a single apple inside. When they arrested him, he didn't resist. Didn't speak. Just looked at Ray and smiled. At the station, he refused a lawyer. "I don't need one," he said. "We're all guilty. Some of us just get caught." Ray watched him through the glass. Harlan looked older, but the smile hadn't changed. It was the same one Ray remembered from the summer of '88. The same one from his nightmares. Jacobs leaned in. "Want me to sit in?" Ray shook his head. "No. This one's mine." The interrogation room was cold. Bare metal table. 2 chairs. A single light overhead. Ray sat down across from him. "You remember me?" he asked. Harlan tilted his head. "Of course. Raymond Burke. You cried a lot. I always liked the soft ones." Ray's jaw clenched. "I saw you take Eli behind the mess hall. And you didn't stop me," Harlan said. "You were afraid. But not of me. You were afraid of becoming me." Ray stayed silent. Harlan leaned forward, voice low. "They sent me to cleanse the rot. That's what they said. The church. The fathers. They knew about the darkness. They just wanted it quiet." Ray slammed his fist on the table. Miguel was a child. Harlan didn't flinch. He had the same eyes. "Lost. Like you were." Ray stood up. Hands trembling. "Where are the other bodies? Where's Eli?" Harlan only smiled. "I didn't kill them all, Ray. Some were already dying when I found them. I just helped them finish." He paused. "But I can take you to the place. That night, under escort, they drove Harlan back into the swamp. Fog hung low. Cypress trees loomed like sentinels. He led them down a narrow path behind Camp Wren Hollow. Through reeds and muck. To a clearing no one had seen before. There, beneath a collapsed cabin, they found it. A pit. 6 feet wide. 10 feet deep. Bones inside. Dozens of them. Not 7 victims. Not even 10. But 23. The next morning, headlines hit the local news. Mass grave found in Louisiana swamp, suspect in custody. But the sheriff's office gave no comment. Jacobs told the press it was an ongoing investigation. Ray knew why. Because the real horror wasn't just in the pit. It was in the paperwork they found the next day. Buried deep in the camp's old storage building, beneath waterlogged binders and mold-eaten payroll logs, they found a locked steel drawer. Inside, dozens of letters. Reports. Signed affidavits. From parents. From counselors. From kids. All dated between 1986 and 1989. Alleging abuse. Naming names. And each one, stamped received by the Diocese of Lafayette. Ray stared at the documents in silence. Jacobs paced behind him. They knew, Ray finally said. The church knew this was happening. And they buried it. Worse still, among the files, Ray found a photograph. Harlan Price standing beside a priest. Both smiling. The back labeled, Father Michael T. Doer, Youth Programs Coordinator, 1987. Ray's hands went cold. He knew that name. He remembered it from his own youth. The sermons. The private talks behind the chapel. He remembered the smell of incense. The way the door clicked shut. He had blocked it out for years. Ray sat alone in his trailer that night, gripping the photo. His mind raced. His stomach turned. All this time, he thought he was chasing a killer. But he was really chasing his own past. Sloan knocked softly and entered. "You okay?" he asked. Ray didn't look up. "I was one of them," he whispered. Sloan froze. "One of the victims?" Ray nodded. "They didn't just kill those kids. They took something first." He handed Sloan the photo. "This goes higher." Price was the knife. But someone else held the handle. Ray and Sloan drove to Lafayette the next morning. The diocese headquarters was nestled behind iron gates and flowering oaks. Peaceful. Too peaceful. Inside, they were met by a pale, soft-spoken man in a gray clerical shirt, Father Granger, the diocesan legal liaison. "You have no jurisdiction here," he said gently, his hands folded like a prayer. "This is private church property." Ray laid the photograph of Father Doer and Harlan Price on the polished oak desk. "You recognize him?" Granger didn't blink. "I have no comment." Ray leaned in. "We found bones in the swamp. Children's bones. From the years Doer was in charge of Camp Wren Hollow." Granger folded the photo slowly and placed it in a drawer. "I'm sorry. The church cannot assist you." Sloan's voice cracked. "Sir, we have evidence. Affidavits. Letters." Granger nodded, almost sad. "The church receives many letters. That does not make them true." Ray's hand slammed the desk. "Where's Doer?" Granger calmly met his eyes. "He passed away in 2002. Heart attack. Buried with honor." Ray's breath caught. Convenient. Too convenient. Outside, Sloan leaned against the car, shaking. "They buried this. For decades." Ray lit a cigarette, eyes fixed on the steeple. "They buried us." Later that night, Ray drove alone, deep into the outskirts of town, to an abandoned chapel. One he hadn't seen since he was 13. The door was boarded, but he forced it open. Inside, dust, rotted pews, silence. He walked to the altar. There, beneath the wooden cross, he knelt. Not to pray, but to remember. He remembered Eli. He remembered Doer's voice. He remembered his own fear. Suddenly, behind him, a creak. Ray spun, gun drawn. A shadow stood in the doorway. Not Harlan. Not Sloan. But someone else. Someone Ray never expected to see again. Ray's finger hovered over the trigger. The shadow stepped into the light. And Ray dropped the gun. Eli. The boy he thought was dead now stood before him, older, gaunt, but unmistakably him. Same eyes. Same scar above the eyebrow. Ray stumbled backward. But I saw your shoes. I thought. Eli nodded slowly. You thought I died. His voice was cracked, tired. I wanted you to think that. They sat in the dust and silence of the chapel, moonlight spilling through broken stained glass. Eli told his story. He had escaped Camp Wren Hollow one night in 1988. He ran for miles, barefoot and bleeding, until an old woman took him in. She never told the police. She believed the church was involved. Eli changed his name. Disappeared. Grew up in shadows. And for the last 10 years, he had been quietly collecting evidence. Following Ray. Following Harlan. Everything I did, Eli said, was so someone would finally see the truth. Ray could hardly speak. You let them think you were dead for 30 years. Eli's eyes burned. It was the only way they'd stop looking. The church didn't want me alive. He handed Ray a flash drive. It's all here. Names. Donations. Transfers. Doer wasn't alone. There were others. Ray took it. His hands shook. Suddenly, a sound outside. Gravel shifting. Then, a gunshot. Glass shattered behind them. Ray tackled Eli to the floor. A second shot cracked into the altar. Ray crawled to the door, gun drawn, eyes scanning the shadows. He saw a figure sprinting into the woods. Not Harlan. Not someone they knew. But someone watching. Listening. Someone who now knew Eli was alive. They didn't go to the police. Ray drove Eli out of the city before sunrise, heading south along back roads that only locals knew. Eli stayed quiet, face pale, clutching the flash drive like it was his last breath. They know now, he said. They'll come for both of us. Ray didn't argue. He'd seen it too many times. When the powerful feel threatened, people vanish. They hid in a fisherman's shack near Bayou Teche, off-grid and half-submerged. No cell signal. No neighbors. Just mosquitoes and silence. Ray set a shotgun by the door. Slept in a chair with one eye open. But someone still found them. It happened on the third night. A truck rolled up slow at 2:14 a.m. No headlights. Ray spotted it through the cracked window. Two men stepped out. One carried a gas can. Ray shook Eli awake. Get out back. Take the flash drive. Don't stop. What about you? I'll hold them. Eli hesitated, then ran. The fire started fast. They poured gasoline around the shack and lit a match. Ray opened fire from the front door, hitting one in the leg. The other returned fire, spraying bullets into the walls. Ray ducked, coughing on smoke. The shack was already burning. Wood crackled. Flames climbed the walls. He burst through the side window, lungs screaming, and disappeared into the swamp. Hours later, Sheriff Jacobs arrived to ashes and silence. Ray was gone. So was Eli. The only thing left behind was a scorched shotgun and a boot print in the mud, smaller than Ray's. Back at the sheriff's office, Sloan checked the logs. The private security firm where Harlan had worked? It was owned by a subsidiary of the diocese. Suddenly, everything snapped into place. This wasn't just a cover-up. It was a machine. 6 months later, Washington, D.C. A flash drive was anonymously delivered to the Department of Justice. Inside: names, financial records, internal church emails, video statements from Eli. By then, the story had already leaked. A journalist from The Guardian received a tip, and within days the world knew about Camp Wren Hollow, the diocese, and the bodies in the swamp. The public wanted blood. An internal investigation followed. 3 bishops resigned. 2 committed suicide. 1 was arrested for obstruction of justice. But the system didn't collapse. It adapted. Donations dipped, then bounced back. The church issued an apology and moved on. Sheriff Jacobs retired in silence. Sloan transferred to another state. And Ray? Ray was never seen again. But sometimes, late at night, local fishermen say they see a man walking the edge of the bayou. Gun on his back. Smoke in his hand. Eyes like he's seen too much and survived too little. Some call him a ghost. Others call him a warning. Eli moved north. Changed his name again. He works as a counselor now. Quiet. Kind. He doesn't talk about the past. But every year, on August 9th, he lights a candle. 1 for each name. This year, 23 flames. 1 more than the year before. And still counting.